All right, good evening, everybody. I see we're just having everyone connecting their audio, and then we'll begin. And just making sure everyone's in from the waiting room. Thanks all for waiting so patiently in the waiting room. Just checking, make sure everybody's here. Ooh, look at that, pages and pages of people. Okay, great. So welcome to another episode of our Conscious Conversations. Tonight I have the privilege of chatting to Dr. Heidi Van Loggerenberg. Thank you, Heidi, for joining us. Welcome. And I think before we get started, just let everyone know that I have muted everybody so we don't have 50 people talking at once. And if you have any questions while we're chatting, you're welcome to put it in the chat box. If you put your mouse over Zoom, there's a little button at the bottom, it says chat. You can put it in there, and then we'll answer it. If we're busy on a tangent, we'll get to it. Don't worry, we will get to it. And if you want to hold your questions to the end, we'll probably have 10 minutes of questions to cover at the end. So I just pasted our title for tonight's conversation in your chat screen: evidence-based functional and medicinal foods. There's a lot there, but I thought maybe, Heidi, we could start with functional medicine, because we're talking about evidence-based functional. What is functional medicine? What are the principles behind it? And what makes it different from allopathic medicine?
So, Peter, there's a few core principles. The one is that it's a systems-based approach. So functional medicine believes that all systems are interrelated as opposed to isolated. In allopathic medicine, you'll go to the cardiologist or the gastroenterologist, etc. So everything is interrelated and affects each other, which is very logical. The second principle is that in functional medicine, you always try and find the root cause of a problem and then address it. So you're not treating symptoms and suppressing anything. You want to go right down to the root cause and sort it out.
Okay, that before you rush on, that's extremely common with medicine. It's just to band-aid approach, like let's put a sticker on it and, not even think about what the root cause would be, because I might have to ask you about like your lifestyle, your diet. Most doctors are like, I don't have time. Let me just give you this pill and goodbye.
Absolutely. And I think, when it comes to chronic disease, allopathic medicine is amazing with acute disease. But with chronic disease, they really have gaps because they don't acknowledge nutrition, environment, and lifestyle choices. And for me, I've just found being trained as a homeopath and then going into functional medicine and then working with DNA testing and then advanced real-time biochemistry testing, you really do see how all of those things, there's predispositions, then there's triggers, then there's mediators that keep, that imbalance or disease going for many years. And so it really is important that your practitioner spends a lot of time with you, goes from almost while you were in the womb, what state was your mother in while she was pregnant with you, and spills that across your timeline, your health timeline, and then tries to take you back to a time when you were well. And I think, the term optimal wellness is such a wonderful term today, where it's a great goal because everybody's version of optimal wellness is different. You might be in a wheelchair and you might just achieve just another step forward, but it's amazing for you. So I think, functional medicine is just something that is very individual. It treats each person individually, and it really is the medicine of the future.
Well, I hope so. What is that? Diet and lifestyle and environment?
Nutrition, environment, and lifestyle.
How is that not the fundamental of any diagnostic or it's just mind-boggling to me.
I know, we live in the world and we eat, and we sleep and all of that. So to me, it's a foundation.
Oh, okay. What else did you have?
That's it. Maybe just to mention there that they also believe, which I think is quite interesting, is one cause can cause many conditions, and you could have many causes for one condition. So it really is about not just saying, oh, you have X and I'm going to give you X or Y. It's about nitpicking that whole case apart and saying, this is what your personalized protocol needs to be.
Okay. Because when I chatted to Dr. James Rath a couple of weeks ago, he said something very similar, where he'll sit with someone for an hour at least and really get under what is going on, what is up with your lifestyle to figure it out. Whereas, your average doctor has 10 minutes, apparently. I think it was even less. I think it was like just a few minutes was the statistic, yeah.
Exactly. I mean, that just gives you time to prescribe a drug and go. So.
Okay, sure. So, that's very clear how that's different then. And then, looking at disease processes, they obviously, these three things are key. Like you spoke about earlier when we were chatting, inflammation and oxidative stress and how they're such an important factor underlying disease. Maybe just chat to us a little bit about that.
So, there's four key processes that are underlying most chronic diseases, and those are inflammation, oxidative stress, methylation, and detox. There's a few others on the sideline, but those are the four main ones that, I kind of focus in on. And if I think to this time of, sorry, Peter, but the COVID, sorry, I know you don't like that word, but, the two main ones there are inflammation and oxidative stress. And I think that if all of us start with the question of, before a virus or a bacteria or whatever it is this winter is going to find us, what state are we in? And going one layer below that and asking, what are my inflammation levels and what are my oxidative stress levels? And then starting to get those within the normal ranges, because that then gives you the best resilience. And, the resilience is this wonderful word that has emerged over this time, and it's resilience on all fronts, be it mental, emotional, physical, immune, etc., etc. So it's about chasing resilience and getting all your markers in line.
So you then testing for inflammation and oxidative stress?
Yes, you can. You can also go on symptoms, but if you were to do blood tests for inflammation, you would look at an HS-CRP test. And for oxidative stress, it's a urine test that's not currently done in South Africa. It gets sent overseas, and it's an 8-OHDG test. I know it's a long name. It's a mouthful. But basically, if you're looking at inflammation, there's sort of 5 key markers to look at, and that's redness, heat, swelling, pain, and loss of function. And anytime you have an infection, you're going to have some degree of inflammation. And so it's about ensuring that before something finds you, you already have inflammation within the reference range, so that you don't go outside of the reference range. And that's, I think, what's happening to a lot of people at the moment, is they just have this cascade of, that sort of pro-inflammatory cascade, and they end up in hospital, with COVID. So it's just about keeping your inflammation within normal limits, and really what we'll go into now will really help you to do that. As far as oxidative stress goes, it's a measure of, very, very simply, how many oxidants do you have to the amount of antioxidants that you have. So you always want to have slightly more antioxidants, obviously, than you have oxidants, because your antioxidants go in there, neutralize them, stop them doing damage. And if they roam around in your body, I kind of see them as looters. They run around and they steal bricks, electrons, off cell membranes. And then the whole, if there's a lot of them, they break down that building or that cell very quickly, and you get cell death, and that leads to premature aging. But it's not just on the outside, or your hair turning gray, wrinkles, etc. It's actually happening on the inside. So it's your artery walls, it's your heart, it's your joints, and places where you want to have that long health span of mobility and healthy brain function, etc. So reducing just those 2 markers can make such a difference to one's health.
I mean, would you say that inflammation, oxidative stress is pretty ubiquitous in our world right now, considering the lifestyles and environments we find ourselves in?
Absolutely. I mean, just even if you try and live a healthy lifestyle, you're just bombarded with sort of, be it waves coming in, be it pollution. You've got to really live almost where you do, in sort of a pristine environment with your own water supply and your clean, fresh air to try and get away from it. And then, walk around as you do barefoot in earth and, get, the antioxidants flowing and the electrons flowing, that kind of thing. But most of us don't have that privilege. We live in the city and we have to deal and compensate every single day.
Okay, great. Megan wanted to know again, what were the other two markers, processes that you mentioned for underlying chronic illnesses?
Methylation and detoxification. Is that what she's asking?
Yeah. So do you want to just give us a minute on each of those?
Well, methylation is a relatively easy and a relatively complicated process, but it involves protecting DNA. It involves detoxification that happens in the liver and in every single cell. And basically, you want to be methylating optimally to ensure that your metabolism is running correctly. And things that help you methylate properly are all your B vitamins. So, if you can start with food that is rich in B2, B6, B12, and folate, which is all your greens. And, the product that comes to mind that you've got, Peter, I promised you I would kind of talk about them because I love Peter's products, is the alkalizer, the green alkalizer. So having that every day has got so much folate in it, and other things that detoxify your body, which we'll get to now. Okay. So it's about your B vitamins, and it's also about sulfur compounds. So things that have got, so things like onions, garlic, anything that's going to help to make some glutathione down the line. You can also supplement glutathione. You can also help add in some magnesium for the second phase. There's two phases of methylation or detoxification. And you can hear I'm spilling into detoxification as I'm talking about methylation. So, the first phase is more about your vitamin Bs and getting some sulfur compounds in. And then the second phase is about inserting magnesium and possibly some vitamin E in there.
What do you think of MSM in that?
I think it's great. I don't think everybody needs it, but I think it's great.
Okay, as a sulfur compound. And then detoxification.
Yeah. Remember, there's therapeutic and there's maintenance doses. So I think if you're having a maintenance dose, just a small amount in your smoothie every day, fantastic.
We don't put in your smoothie, it tastes terrible.
Okay, in a capsule.
Better. I tend to put just a bit of water and knock it back every now and again. Yeah,
good
exactly.
for you.
I can handle.
You're a stronger person than me.
Okay, great. So then let's spend pretty much the rest of the evening talking about what we can do about all this stuff, because really that's the key for me. How do we get the system upgraded, upregulated, working more effectively? What are those key things? Like, what are the underlying lifestyle factors for health, really?
There are quite a few of them, but I want to try and keep them as simple as possible. And as many people know, you could spend a fortune on a whole lot of them, but there are some of them that are absolutely free and accessible to everyone, wherever they are. You could be traveling, you could be whatever, and you can still have access to them. So I'm going to start with one that I love and has come to the fore. So instead of going nutrition, environment, and lifestyle, we're going to swap that round tonight, and we're going to do lifestyle, environment, nutrition, because most of you on this call are going to know possibly more nutrition information than I do. So let's just go back to stuff that we need to be reminded of, because we do it all the time. So I'm going to start with sleep. And sleep has become a fascinating topic for me. And I've actually taken my ring off to charge, but I have an Oura ring. I'm not sure if anyone else has an Oura ring. And I got it for my husband and I for Christmas 2 years ago.
Spell it again?
And, it's Oura.
Or I'm just putting it in here so people know.
And he's become so attached to his Oura ring. And this is my husband, who's not very health conscious normally, but his Oura ring is just, it's precious. And what it does is where other devices tracking, body metric devices would start with heart rate or something else, this starts with sleep. And it's very easy to wear, unlike a big bulky watch, which can also track sleep, but it's just very small and dinky. And so the first thing that I found out was that we need to be sleeping 7.5 to 8 hours 15 every single night. And I thought, I'm definitely doing that. I'm definitely getting my 8 hours of sleep every night. And as soon as I put the ring on, I found out I was sleeping 6 to 6.5 hours a night, which was quite a shock for me. So I had to do a little bit of sleep hygiene. And firstly, you got to sleep a little earlier. So round about between 9 and 10, because those first 2 to 3 hours between 10 and 12, 1 o'clock are when you go into deep sleep. And deep sleep is the most restorative, immune modulating, anti-aging sleep that you could, that you have in the night. And there were a few little interesting discoveries along the way. So we used to sleep with like a big duvet on and try, you want to get into bed and it'd be warm and comfy. But as I started to read about it, I would see that I wasn't getting the percentage of deep sleep that I needed. We're supposed to get into bed, almost think like a prehistoric human where you're sleeping on a cave floor and it's cold. So you're supposed to get into a cold bed. Now that took a lot of training, especially for my husband. And overseas you can get something called a chili pad, which is this really thin mat that you put on the top of your mattress and you can set the temperature. So when you get into bed, it's really cold, but as it takes you through the night, it starts warming you up as though you would normally be woken up by the sun rays falling on the cave floor. And so we've now gotten ourselves to a point where we get into a cold bed and we've got a summer duvet on, even in the middle of winter. And we find that we go into a much deeper, deep sleep. So we're getting better percentages, which is great. And I mention that because, again, we're in a time of trying to keep our immune system strong. And that restorative sleep is what just fortifies and modulates the immune system. And then as you go through the rest of the night, you go through periods of, REM sleep and light sleep. And that's where you're getting a lot of memory integration and emotional integration. And then you start to wake up. And I wanted to start this by, if you've got a good sleep, you've had quality sleep and quantity sleep, you wake up and that's how you start your day. So you should wake up naturally, refreshed, and with energy to go. Not too much cortisol, but energy to go. Now, I just want to rewind and go back to, well, how do you get all of that? So leading up, you need to start with a consistent sleep cycle. So even on the weekends, don't try and lie in, try and get up at the same time and go to sleep at the same time. I know that you need to live, etc. But, things like having a rich meal before bed, wait at least 3 hours before going to sleep. And if you can, stretch then in the morning and have some intermittent fasting, also incredible for the immune system. I'm going to heavily weigh this towards the immune system, if that's okay.
For sure.
Because we're deep in that. I'll try not to say the C word. So it's that consistent sleep-wake cycle. And as you wake up in the morning, you want to go to the window and flash bright light onto your eyes, because that stops your melatonin release and gets your cortisol up. And you're supposed to have a nice, strong spike of cortisol in the morning that tapers off towards the late afternoon, allowing your melatonin then to rise and you to have a nice, strong, deep sleep. So lots of light in the morning, and if you can go and do some exercise, you just need to do regular moderate exercise, 30-45 minutes a day, brisk walking, maybe a jog, try to get a few light weights in, but try and do that outside in nature, breathing, and in bright light.
Okay.
So you then, if you're going to have caffeine, at least 6 hours before bedtime. And alcohol, even though it makes you sleepy, it might wake you up several times in the night. And I found from the ring, it actually raises my body temperature. And so I get a very restless night's sleep. So Peter, I know you were talking about your herbal capsules of release and euphoria as a replacement for alcohol.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And I love the valeriana in the release, just to actually calm you down and take you down a bit. So also in the evenings, you want to limit your screen exposure. I know you probably all know this, and many of you probably have blue light glasses to limit blue light coming in, because this is something that really swayed me, was even a bedside lamp that's got a tiny little LED emitting light doesn't allow a full release of melatonin. So you still have your cortisol bobbing along, and that doesn't allow you to go down into that deep restorative sleep. So now I sleep with an eye mask on, and just on that quick little thing, I got a temper. The mattresses and the pillows, they've got this massive one. You look like an insect, but it's very soft, and you can't really turn your head too much and get crinkles and wrinkles. So get one. It looks like you've got big eyebralias on, but it's got to be completely blacked out. Your curtains, there can be no street light, no night lights, no passage lights, nothing. And then you shouldn't need to supplement with melatonin. And I mention that because melatonin is indicated during this time as an immune strengthener, a potent anti-inflammatory and a potent antioxidant. But you could get it free every night if you just slept properly. And what else about sleep? Oh, a few little things. Ensure your room is cool. We've spoken about that. Ensure it's absolutely dark. Ensure it's quiet. Ensure it's peaceful. And I mean peaceful in its surroundings. And if you need to Marie Kondo your room and just make it minimal and decluttered, do it. It's worth it. Make it comfortable. Just invest a little bit in fluffiness and softness and really, make your bed inviting. And just ensure it's clean and dust-free and, pet hair-free, etc. So that's sleep. Peter, is there anything you want to jump in and say at this point?
Sleep is hugely important. I get it. That's why I sleep outside under the stars without any artificial light.
Pitch black.
Well, I find it amazing when it's full moon. I mean, that moon is like a spotlight on top of my head. But apparently it doesn't affect melatonin production at all, the full moon. It's not the right kind of light.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, you see, I'm so addicted to my mask, I'd want to mask it off as well.
I'm tempted sometimes.
Although it is beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to move on to stress reduction now, which I know we all know. And acute stress is great, and it's actually, it's beneficial to our bodies, but it's the long-term chronic stress that drains our bodies. And what's great here are adaptogens. And, I just think of Peter's great adaptogens, and the one that comes to mind is maca. Peter, what do you think? I'm thinking mushrooms as well. What do you want to add into the adaptogen pot?
Ashwagandha.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. And that's fantastic for women, on all levels, hormones, adrenals. And so it's this long-term stress that drains us and keeps our cortisol high, and eventually that gets depleted, and that can possibly tip into low thyroid because your thyroid tries to compensate but then runs out. And so it really is about nurturing your adrenal glands. And when you're in long-term stress, you're inflamed again. So during this time, just focus on trying to reduce stress as much as possible. And 3 little things come to mind. And the first one is breathing. And you've seen a resurgence of just breathing techniques. Just like so simple. You can do the labor breathing where you drop your jaw, your lower jaw, almost pant like an animal. And there's the 7-second in, 7-second hold, 7-second drop. It doesn't have to be more complicated than that. You can then tip that into some mindfulness, where you just slow down and you just become aware of what you are doing. Not trying to do several things at once. They're now showing, research is showing that multitasking is not great. And it takes you about 20 minutes to get back to the original task you were doing. And then finally, meditation. And I've recently discovered TM meditation. And that really it just takes you into a different state of consciousness. So whatever form, wherever you're at, just do it. And just a little thing to add, and then, Peter can also add in some magnesium-rich foods, is I found a liposomal magnesium is very, very beneficial to just aiding with that breath. There'll be times where I genetically do not break adrenaline down very quickly. And so there are times in my day when I'm like this. And just taking magnesium or magnesium-rich foods really just helps with that stress response, just to keep you normal. What magnesium-rich foods come to mind, Peter?
It's not necessarily going to be useful for sleep, but definitely stress reduction is cacao. I mean, cacao is one of the highest known. And it's got the anandamide and PEA and serotonin precursors.
So maybe earlier in the day.
Yeah. For those who can't cope with caffeine, I luckily have that allele which can break caffeine down within 5 minutes.
I don't have that. And just about doing things that keep you in a positive frame of mind, like practicing gratitude. I know we've heard it so much from all different aspects, but just stopping for one moment, you can stop those negative thoughts. If you just for a moment say, I'm grateful for these 3 things. Okay, cool. I can move on with my day. I found that so useful. Also just turning things off. At the moment we've got so much scary stuff coming. I mean, each week is like a major thing. Then it was Beirut, the whole of Beirut exploded. Then it was just turn things off or limit, have boundaries. I know Peter's very, very good at having boundaries with his devices. I can see when you tune into WhatsApp, he hasn't checked it in forever. And he switches his Wi-Fi off at night and, just try to establish some boundaries. And then also just trying to improve your heart rate variability, because it really helps with resilience, from stresses coming in from the outside, and also just mental stresses, all the stress we create ourselves. So, and you can track that again on a device, a tracking device, or on the Aura Ring.
So is that just through exercise, or is hot and cold very good for heart rate variability too?
It is, and so is exercise, moderate and gentle and regular. And there's a few things that's good for it. So it's about getting a variety in, So I know Peter's got a sauna, and then he probably runs down to the river and jumps in the ice cold river, and that's really superhuman. But we could do that in a swimming pool, something like that. Okay, so exercise, we all know exercise has benefits.
Yeah, before you go there, Tanya was just asking magnesium. That was liposomal magnesium.
Yes.
And any particular brands you like?
I like Coin Healthcare. It comes in a sachet. There's 2 flavors. The one is unflavored, and the other one is a berry flavor, and it's natural berry coloring with a bit of stevia. So there's nothing artificial in it. It doesn't mix too well with water, so just bear that in mind. But it's got a berry sherbet from, if you remember that from the 80s, from Suckers. You might be too young for that, too old, too young. But I like the berry sherbet flavor. But that is the best magnesium that I have found. What I also like about it is it's in a citrate form, and that just helps with gut motility, which helps with detox. So, the faster stuff's moving through your gut, the better. Okay, so exercise.
I also wanted to know where you got your eye mask from.
I actually got it from a pop-up store, but I'm sure you could get it online from Temper or from a Temper store.
Okay.
You're going to have to search for it.
Perfect.
Okay. Exercise. We know it distracts you from anxiety. It helps to boost your antioxidant levels, as long as it's not too strenuous, as long as you are allowing a lot of frequency of, a lot of time to recover between sessions. Again, depending on your genetics, some people recover, super quick. Other people need a little bit more time. It improves your mental and physical resilience, coming back to that word again. It improves your circulation, manages your stress hormones or keeps them modulated. Modulation is another word. And, at this time, it's very easy to slip into boosting. I want to boost my immune system. I want to boost this. Everything is just about regulating and monitoring and modulating, and just keeping everything in an optimal condition, but not boosted. Okay. It improves your lung function, which is very useful right now. And, again, people always say, just find something that you enjoy, try and do it outside. And if you're really busy, just do it in little bite-sized things. Can you do lunges while you are waiting for your water for your tea to boil? Or while you're brushing your teeth, can you do arm exercises? I think I drive my family mad. I almost look like I'm TikToking the whole time, although my kids drive me nuts looking like I'm TikToking. So that's exercise.
Yeah, I really like kettlebells. That's one of my favorites. It's very quick. It's very intense. Yeah.
So those short bursts of intense exercise are really good, and the effects last for a lot longer. So that's great.
Yeah, and it combines strength training and cardio, which is handy too. Yeah,
well done. So social factors and connection, we've all felt this during this time. It's been, that saying of physical distance and social solidarity. It's actually social distance. It's actually physical distancing and social solidarity instead of social distancing. And I've really found I've started leaving voice messages on WhatsApp instead of texting, because I think it's so nice just to hear a voice during this time. And I urge you just to stay in contact with one friend a week, because very easy to think, oh, well, no one wants to speak to me. I'm going to just, shrink away at home or introvert or whatever it is. But just to reach out to people. And if there are people in need, just call them. It goes so far. You don't need to do anything more than that. It's free. Just send them a voice message or give them a call. It really goes a long way. I like this one, which was trust yourself. So during this time, I've just found that I couldn't get the repairman to come and do whatever, and I could do it myself. Or those shoes weren't so old in the cupboard, I could do them myself. I could wear them for a little longer, and I just became more self-reliant during this time, whereas I thought I would have, completely caved because I was cut off. But it actually been a really nice self-resilience time. So, trust yourself. So I want to move on to environment. Is just two short things I want to say. With food and environment, which I'm going to go into now, it's all about what you take out and what you put in. Just think of it like that. The body is very simple, or we are very simple. What comes in, what goes out. And when you're thinking of environment, you just need to limit your toxin exposure coming in, and you need to ensure that toxins can clear from your body readily and within a certain time frame. Do you want to add anything in here, Peter?
That sounds fantastic. No, let's carry on.
Okay, great. Right, so nutrition. There's 4 things that I want to mention. It's important to get the correct macronutrients, proteins, fats, carbs, you know that. And it's important to get the correct micronutrient, vitamins and minerals and cofactors and etc. It's important to get adequate phytonutrients. And when I think of that, I think of the rainbow spectrum and how important it is to get a serving or more of each of the color of the rainbow every day. Now that's the challenge. So if you have a look at my site, it's liveheidi.com. There is a phytonutrient chart. It's a 1-pager. You can print it out and you can stick it on your fridge. It's a wonderful way of remembering, have I had purple today or have I had white today? And you need to get between 9 and 13 servings of phytonutrients every day. And they're not large, the servings. So it's very easy to get them. And if you followed Peter for the 14 odd years that I followed Peter, you'll know that you can get them in a smoothie, via powders, via whole fruit and veg. You can juice them. You can freeze them. You can dehydrate them, you can cook them, there's so many different ways. And so if you just start to think of color in your day and how you're going to space it, it actually becomes easier. I'm going to have 2 or 3 for breakfast and then another day, and so you go on. And you've got to just get through the 6 colors, but it's about getting them in. And just an interesting observation is, if you look out into nature, the predominant color is green. So it's important that you get a little bit more green in your diet, and especially from a detox point of view and from a methylation point of view. And if you're not going to get that variety of greens in, then supplement with like the green alkalizer shake, or, some type of algae, seaweed, that kind of thing. Just add it into your diet. Very, very powerful. Okay. And then the 4th one is superfoods. And I think it's just about going for nutrient density, getting that sort of bang for your buck where you don't have much time or you are trying to get the most out of your day and you really need to fortify. And those superfoods are going to, again, take down your inflammation, take down your oxidative stress, help you with methylation, help you to detox. Just those 4 key processes. Right, so key things, spices, amazing. Just try and get them in on all fronts. They're all so beneficial. Turmeric, it's got curcumin in. You need to heat it and it needs a little bit of oil to become activated and more bioavailable to the body. The second one is cinnamon, helps regulate your blood sugar level. And as you know, during this time, people with diabetes are having a harder time. Why? Because their blood sugar is wonky all over the show, and they are then inflamed and have more oxidative stress. So cinnamon, amazing, added to everything. Ginger, garlic, onions, great. There's tons more. Just add them in as you can throughout the day. Don't forget about them. And as like teas, teas are also really, really dense and rich in phytonutrients. Ensure that you try and remain as alkaline as possible. Again, that green shake is amazing, or the seaweeds or the algae. And ensure that your nutrient reserves are topped up. Because in functional medicine, they've got this great term, which is organ reserves. For a time of stress, you at least have optimal organ reserves with which to be resilient. Take care of your gut during this time, because as you know, the gut microbiome really does influence your immune system. And remember that there are other microbiomes happening in your body. There's the skin microbiome. There's a microbiome in your lungs. And you need to nurture and nourish all of them. So, with your gut, you can go in there with fermented foods if you can tolerate them, maybe some glutamine, reduce the pro-inflammatory foods like refined sugars, excessive saturated fat, oily, deep fried food, added sugar, added salt, that kind of thing. I'm sure you're all very mindful of what the bad foods are that you need to get out. Hydrate, filtered water or spring water. Peter's so lucky to have his own water source. It's amazing if you can have that. But if you can't, then, ensure that it's filtered water, add in some minerals back into the water. And where am I? I don't want to repeat myself. Ensure that you're getting fiber as well, because fiber is, while it keeps your cholesterol down, it's going to keep your inflammation down. Again, it helps you to detox thoroughly. So what comes in goes out at least twice a day, it's pivotal. I've said all of that, and it leads me now onto supplements. I'm going to just mention a few that are related to the immune system. It would be great if you could get these nutrients from food first, and then obviously from superfoods, more nutrient dense. But if you can't, you can also get them from supplements. So the list is, just
before we get into that, this is more for to make sure your immune system is as strong as can be right now for flu season and that kind of thing. Trish also wanted to know whether there'd be a summary of all this info. Definitely check out Heidi's site, because there's tons of stuff there, and this call also is being recorded, and we'll have it on our website. So Trish, you can look over it again and again and again and make tons of notes.
I could also post these notes as a blog post on my site if you just give me a day or two, and then she could just.
Okay, that'd be amazing. And then Anna-Marie wants to know if it was a good idea to do a 30-day juice fast as a restart after a setback. I assume like some kind of physiological setback. What important factors should be taken into account?
It's an excellent question. Here are my thoughts on it. Juicing has taken out the fiber. So while you can get a lot of nutrients in one go, I feel that 30 days might be a little long. And I would want to add in protein into that, because protein is vital for detoxification. So many amino acids are used in detox, and there might not be enough over 30 days, especially as, am I understanding you correctly, that you are recovering from something and you're wanting to is that what you're meaning by reset?
Setback, yeah.
Setback, okay. So, when you are, let's just presume it's recovering, and it could be recovering from an infection. I might be off par, but let's just go with this one, is you really do need to fortify with amino acids and with especially glutathione to really get in and help detox, energize those cells, and act as a potent antioxidant in the body. So I don't know, I just would feel that 30 days might be a little long, but you're an individual and you might feel that it's correct for you. Maybe juice a little bit of the time and then go on to maybe smoothies, that kind of thing.
Yeah, she said it's actually to lose weight. So.
To lose weight. I still feel that, when you're mobilizing, or when you are releasing fat tissue, there's this great saying in functional medicine, which is the solution to pollution is dilution. And so many of the toxins are stored in fat tissue when your body can't get rid of them or doesn't know what to do with them. And as you lose weight, all of those toxins start to be released. And if you don't have enough protein to get rid of or to open up those liver pathways thoroughly, they can just go back into the fat tissue and be stored. And sometimes people will store weight or fat tissue because they just have such a high toxin burden. So, what I would do with that is also add in some detoxification supplements. But I would definitely work with your healthcare practitioner to do that.
Great. Okay, let's get back on your track. Supplements for immune-specific support.
So let's think of an infection in 4 phases, and this is the last thing you're gonna have to concentrate on. So there's the prevention phase, the infection phase, then there's going to be a whole lot of inflammation and oxidative stress, and then there's going to be recovery. And all of them need slightly different things. So, and there are certain supplements, or let me call them nutrients and botanicals, that you could take through those 4 phases as your foundation. And there are certain that you take just in the beginning and certain that you take just at the end. So let's talk about the foundation supplements. There is vitamin C, no brainer, you know it backwards, D3, and when you're in the prevention and infection phase, you can definitely increase your amount of vitamin D intake, or you can go outside and get natural vitamin D. And, it's about going out morning and afternoon when there's no, strong sun risk, but it's no barrier, no sun cream, as much skin exposed as possible. Try to just get that unfiltered natural vitamin D, the sunlight in. So vitamin D, and then there is, and just a note on vitamin D, if you're going to be taking more than 5,000 IUs, please take it with vitamin K, because it just stops calcium being deposited in your arteries and, hardening of the arteries happening. So just a little note there if you're supplementing.
K2 specifically or any K?
Sorry?
K2 specifically or any K?
A K2.
Okay.
Zinc, again, for viral infections, but there's a nice little thing here, which is to add in quercetin, which you can find in fruit and vegetables, but you might want to supplement, especially during this time, just to ensure that you have, enough levels. It's a great anti-inflammatory, anti-allergy, but it also acts as an ionopore, and it opens up the channels and allows zinc to really get into the cells more easily. So zinc and quercetin combination is great. So it's vitamin C, D3, and zinc with quercetin. Then I've spoken about melatonin. Melatonin is, again, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, and it's got an interesting effect where it acts as a blood thinner. So right now you've heard about, if you make it to hospital, if you have COVID and you enter hospital, they are putting you onto anticoagulants. So it's optimal to have your blood thin, or normally thin, let's put it that way. You don't want to be a bleeding risk, but melatonin has that function. The other one then is curcumin, which is a powerful anti-inflammatory. It also has antiviral properties, and it also has a blood thinning effect. So just be mindful of it. If you are going in for any type of surgery, it's something to mention to your surgeon that you have been on curcumin, melatonin, and omega-3. I prefer fish oil. If you are vegan, you might prefer omega-3 from an algae source. However you get it in, it's highly beneficial, and our diets are deficient in omega-3. It's very, very easy to get more omega-6 in our diets from grains and from, certain vegetables and vegetable oils, but just make a point of getting more omega-3 in, especially during this time. Then medicinal mushrooms, and Peter's spoken about this. I remember doing his chocolate workshop, and he put the medicinal mushroom tincture into the chocolates, and you've got to wait for the guy to go and forage them and then make up the tincture. I'm waiting for more stock to arrive. But medicinal mushrooms work best in, and this is a broad stroke, in the prevention and the infection phase. As soon as you're going into more of the inflammatory stage, there's that risk that you could hype the immune system too much, and it then tips into that cytokine storm. So just go easy unless you know that the particular mushroom that you're taking is safe through those 4 phases. And again, check with your healthcare practitioner. Then there are another 2 supplements that you could take through the 4 phases, and that is N-acetylcysteine and glutathione. Now, N-acetylcysteine is a precursor to glutathione. You may know it from ACC 200, but you can also buy it, on its own, not in the fizzy tablet with, whatever else is in there. And it's a wonderful mucolytic. So if you think about heavy, heavy phlegm that you just want to thin and you want to get rid of, and you want to keep those lungs as open as possible, then N-acetylcysteine is something that might be useful. And glutathione is something that I discovered too late in my life, possibly because the liposomal version was not around. The brand I take is Coin again, and I have found it incredible. And this is just between us, all of us. As you know, many of you will have drunk possibly as much alcohol as I have during the lockdown. And that glutathione detoxes incredibly to almost having no hangover the next morning. Now, obviously, I'm not going to drink so much, but still, because I genetically, I do not produce glutathione innately very well, taking it in has just been so beneficial. So you want to always have those glutathione levels topped up so that you've already your oxidative stress is as low as possible. So it's the body's most potent antioxidant. And it's got this great little function where it recycles your own vitamin C. So, you're getting more bang for the vitamin C you're taking in, which means you can take it in, for instance, in Peter's Camu powder, where it's very high in vitamin C. I think also baobab is quite high in vitamin C, isn't it? Yeah. So, and then just put the glutathione on top of that and just recycle it. So I'm done. That's it.
Wow, that's amazing. There's so much there for everybody. I think everyone's going to have to look over this one a few times to get all of that down. Let's see, there were a few more questions there. Megan was asking that she takes lion's mane mushroom daily with shiitake as preventative measures for herpes virus. Would you recommend this daily?
What do you think, Peter? You are more specialized on mushrooms than me.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really know either of them were specific to herpes. I thought that reishi was a little bit stronger in that direction. But, the thing with mushrooms is they've been around forever. They've dealt with everything. So I think any of them are going to help.
The one that I like is a Japanese fermented shiitake mushroom. And it's, a formula. And it's called AHCC. Again, it's by Coin, and I don't mean to keep mentioning Coin, but they have sought out the best from the best labs, and then they brand it under their own brand. And that is a potent antiviral. So you can take it as a preventative, you can take it as a therapeutic, and it's got research trials on it stating it to be safe through those 4 phases of infection.
Okay, wow, that's amazing.
And for viruses, yeah.
So Rita was asking, I put the webpage down. List of supplements, so will that be included in your blog post?
I will add those in.
Fantastic. So we'll probably put a link out with this video when it's online in the next couple of days for people who want to go and check that out. You mentioned something that opens the lungs. What was that?
It doesn't open the lungs. It thins mucus on the lining of the lungs, and that is N-acetylcysteine. Okay. And the abbreviation that you might know is NAC, NAC.
Yeah. Okay, fantastic. So you obviously...
On that, if you go to my site and you go to the COVID page, there is a photo that's not rendering at the moment, but it says download this PDF. If you click, it goes through to a one-pager you can print out, and it gives you the exact milligrammage of every single supplement I've just recommended. And you can actually then see how to take them and what is recommended. And that's based on a research trial.
Wow, that's amazing. That's fantastic, guys. Check it out. So you do consulting and coaching work with people who need support?
So my focus is DNA testing, and then working through that, using that as a starting point, working with lifestyle genetics. I use a test called 3x4, and I've loved seeing how lifestyle genetic tests have evolved. I remember doing the first one way back when in 2010, I think it was. And they've really evolved, and there's great, ways of saying, well, you really need to focus in on detox or oxidative stress, and you need to support. These are where your strengths and weaknesses lie. And then starting to design a personalized protocol for people and saying, these are your potentials for. Now let's test it in real time with, either a blood, urine, etc. test, and see if you're actually manifesting those potentials in real time. Yeah,
I remember Dr. Raff saying it's like having a warehouse full of options, and getting your genetic testing done just narrows your options down to like a couple of shelves. So when you actually spend money on a supplement, you know that it's something you really need.
Because it's so much, it's boggling. I've been in this industry since I qualified, and it's beyond. And it's just, you read something new and then new and new, and you just think, I've got to take all of this. But it's, is this good for us? Is this good for me? And I think your DNA really helps you to hone down.
Fantastic. Sure. That's great. Okay. So I've put your website in the chat screen. guys, check that out. And if you need support, get in touch and make an appointment. Sure. I mean, I don't think there are any more questions. Everyone's kind of run. If you guys have anything else, thank you so much for your time. We've got load shedding in 10 minutes, so better to wrap it up earlier than lose you completely like we did with Ken last week. But yeah, I think it's been so much info there. You really crammed in a lot. Thank you so much. And for those who are listening, next week we've got some more interviews. Check out our website. I've got Casigo, who I'm interviewing. She wrote the book Goddess Bootcamp. I don't know if you read that one, Heidi.
No, I haven't, but that sounds fascinating. I'll definitely tune in.
The most recent book is called How to Unfuck Yourself and Unfuck the World. So
that sounds amazing right now.
Interesting. And then in the evening, I've got Dr. Saskia van Diest, who is talking on ecofluency and interspecies communication. I mean, she just does
that one. I don't want to miss. That sounds amazing.
Working with farmers and people who, you know, work with the land and animals and just being able to actually communicate with them. So that's going to be awesome. But this chat will be online in the next 2 days or so. So guys, check that out. I'll post the link here for you guys all to see. It's Superfoods Conscious Conversations. And all of our past replays are on there. So if you missed any of them, you can have a look. And I believe we're going to be putting audio versions on soon for people who don't want to watch the videos. So that'll be great too. All right.
Peter, just sorry, to end on, I saw there was a question about do I test for cancer patients? 2 points on that. Not if you have active cancer, and I focus on estrogen-driven cancer. So, and I only work with women. So, if that is what you're looking for.
That's fantastic. Sure. Great, guys. So if no more questions, let's wrap it up for the evening. Thank you so much, Heidi. Have a fantastic evening. And
you too. Great chatting again.
Yeah, I hope to see you again soon. And love to your family.
Yeah, likewise.
Okay, maybe we should say goodbye. Everyone can do a little hello and goodbye. I'll mute everybody. Unmute. How do I do that? I can't even do that. So. Thank you so much. Good night.
Night, everyone.